Welcome to the next chapter of As the Story Grows. I'm Brian Patton. This week, I'm stoked to have Hollowfront guitarist Dakota Alvarez join the podcast. Hollowfront will release The Price of Dreaming this Friday, May 27th on UNFD Records. Dakota talks about the bus accident that kicked off the band's last tour, the metalcore scene in Grand Rapids and how he ended up in Hollowfront, and what The Price of Dreaming means to him. Dakota brought an energy to this chat that I loved, and this was a conversation that reminds me no matter age, race, religion, or sexual orientation, there's a connection in this music community. So I hope you guys love getting to know Dakota Alvarez from Hollowfront. Life. I figure at this point in 2022, after everything we've been through the last 2 years, like you can't just be like, oh well, shit went the wrong way. Like,
right?
What are you doing? Right?
I got a phone call from Tyler, and he was just like, "Hey, did you forget what time it was?" And I was like, "Oh shit!"
Well, how are you doing, man? How is life?
It's been crazy.
Yeah.
Just came home about like 2 weeks ago, so getting more acclimated to like the way regular life is at home has been really interesting. Especially because like obviously the world doesn't just stop even though we're on the road. So coming everything kind of just figuring out like where I fit into the mix of things has been fun.
Yeah.
We like had a lot of stuff happen on this last tour too. I don't know if you'd heard about a lot of it, but
no.
We had first weekend. Tyler ended up passing a kidney stone.
Oh man.
Yep. Had to take him to the hospital for that. We ended up having a bus accident where we got hit by a dump truck out in Oregon. Yep. We sent our merch guy home because he ended up separating his clavicle from his AC, tearing all the ligaments in his collarbone. And basically it was, instead of it like looking like this right here, it was like this popping out. And he just got surgery this week. So
man.
Yeah, we had that the first week of tour, which means it was like the first week of March. So it took this to get that surgery. It was horrible. But he's doing a lot better. And then, we just been trying to get back to life ever since.
Wow. That's not ominous at all.
Dude, it's wild, but it's also cool because I remember telling them that I wanted to write a book after this tour because that story of the bus accident in particular, we ended up being like half of us being asleep during this bus accident. 7:00 in the morning while we were in like a place called, I think, Sutherland or Roseburg, Oregon. And I remember just the noise of the crash. And I woke up midair because I got launched out of my bunk. Oh. And I caught myself before I fell over, but like it was immediately followed by, we saw Davian, a merch guy, laying on the floor, and he just looked in shock. Oh. And no blood or nothing. So I was like, okay, so he's fine for now. I just tossed my blankets on him, called the police, and they were really quick to it. They showed up within like 5 minutes. And when they got him out, because they went under the bus to check him out, they got medical attention immediately. I saw the little bone part of his collarbone right there. And I was like, oh my God, what happened? Because I was asleep the whole time.
Yeah.
We were told that this dude was unregistered to his dump truck, and he basically, they've seen it before where they try to work under the radar. They don't want anybody knowing that they don't have the license because they're just trying to get a project done. Mm-hmm. But he ended up getting out with it because we turned left and ended up in front of him. So we had to take liability for it. But we immediately got into a U-Haul. The police were nice enough to help move the trailer out of the way. We got into a parking lot, and then we got a U-Haul, and we were sleeping in that U-Haul until we got to like a hotel later that night in Portland. And by the time us getting to this hotel, we just kind of wanted to just chill out. So much had happened within that day, and we lost so much in that bus accident that we're just, let's take the night off. Immediately in the morning, we tried to rent a new van from Bandigo and like from other places. And unfortunately, they were all sold out. People had already rented all of them. So I was like, of course, that'd be our luck. we get through the process of calling a bunch of places, finding nothing, and then everyone's morale's pretty shot at this point because we're missing last night's show in Portland and we're missing tonight's show in Boise. What's going on? I was pretty hell bent on like not sitting still, so I made as many phone calls to people as possible, and we ended up getting our managers on board, and they said that they'd help get us some money to get a new vehicle. And I was like, okay. How soon can we do that? We could do that today. And he's like, you should get a GoFundMe started just to make sure that like if there's any other expenses, like because we had to get Davian out to the airport, had to get Ubers. He's like, as long as you get your expenses covered, we'll cover the vehicle portion. So we go upstairs to our hotel room. I'm talking to the guys and I was like, all right, elaborate plan time. Davian had to go to Seattle. All right. Before he could go back home to Michigan. And that's like a 45-minute flight. I was like, hypothetically speaking, what if half of us went to Seattle to get a new van? Half of us stayed here in Portland, and then we get the van, people in Portland go meet halfway, and then we just connect the trailer with whatever van we end up purchasing, and we end up playing the show wherever that is too. They said, it sounds crazy, but if we could pull off at least getting the van to the trailer, that'd be great. We all find the same van. We're all looking online for vans in Seattle, and we find the same van, each of us, without talking about it. So we're like, that has to be the one. Call the guy for it, make sure that they have it, and then we ended up purchasing train tickets the next morning. So we left like 7 o'clock in the morning to get on this train. We're headed to Seattle. The guys immediately wake up and start driving to Spokane, Washington, because we're like, let's play the show in Spokane. We pull up to the train station and the guy comes and picks us up in the van. Thank God he did, because we got to see what it looked like. And also the bank closed in like 20 minutes.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So we booked it to the bank, got the cashier's check for it, made sure that everything worked, checked the frame, checked the tires, checked everything. And we ended up purchasing that van, getting the title transferred, getting the insurance put on it and everything. And, booked it all the way to Spokane and showed up to the show 30 minutes before it started.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And everyone was so sure that we weren't going to be able to play it because we just got into that bus accident like 2 days before. But we played that show, and that was probably the most adrenaline I've ever had in me. Wow.
It sounds like you guys didn't lose any like gear or have like guitars break or merchandise get all fucked up or something. Like,
we got so lucky. I think the most damage that happened to the inside of the trailer was everything got shoved to the back, so it looked like the door was broken, but it was just much weight up against it, and some of the totes ended up cracking, but everything else was perfectly intact.
Man, that's awesome. Not that the like losing a van is a big expense, but like if like an amp or a guitar breaks in half, you're just like, fuck it. Like
you're like, oh, there goes our money.
Yeah. Oh man, it's fun. I see the Metallica flag in the background. You think about bus accidents and how like bad it could have gone.
Yeah, you get Cliff Burton like PTSD or PTSD because we ended up when we played We Came as Romans last fall. We were on the road meeting all the crew, and there's a man that was part of the crew for We Came as Romans, and he gets called Tissue. I love him. He's incredible, and he told us that he was in that bus accident and all the stuff that they had to put in his like spinal cord, his vertebrae and stuff.
Oh yeah,
like all the. And I was like, dude, the fact that you're still doing this after going through that's incredible. That's like passion. So
yeah, that's wild. Yeah. Glad everyone in the band was okay. And yeah, your merch guy sounds like he's all right, recovering.
Doing better. He's like in a sling, and he's got a knee brace going on. He ended up having to pull himself, like the side door got crushed and he had to pull himself out the side door.
Oh man.
Yeah. He's really lucky to be alive, and honestly, I feel like the dude who was driving that dump truck's even luckier that he didn't kill one person or all of us.
Yeah, the first story to kick it off.
First chapter of my book already.
Oh yeah, right.
This feverish fever, lasting and fleeting. I yearn for the day your breath can fill my lungs again and take me.
rewind. Are you Grand Rapids born and raised?
I'm actually Bay Area, California, born and raised.
Okay.
I was born over at Stanford University over in Palo Alto, and then I was out there for maybe like a year, and then my mom ended up moving back here to Michigan, where she was born and raised, and I was in Muskegon for a long period of time, and then ended up going through my life and figuring out what I wanted to do with music, and ended up joining Hollow Front just a few years ago.
That's awesome. What was growing up like?
It was interesting because like I was a bigger kid. I grew up real chunky. They call me Baby Pun, and I didn't know where I kind of fit into the mix of things, especially like being brown too. And I was in a lot of school systems that didn't have a lot of diversity going on. So I got treated a little interestingly. There's some bullies here and there, but it makes you grow a backbone, if anything. Lets you get tough skin. And then I ended up going to like an arts academy from like 3rd grade all the way through 8th grade. And that really like jump started my interest and passion for music because I was exposed to it all the time. We used to do this thing at the end of the year called Festival of the Arts. And that was a whole week dedicated strictly to arts. And we'd have different guests come in, whether that be like musicians. We had yo-yoers. I don't know if that's the correct term. We had people that like specialized in sciences, like with space. They would do like these giant like indoor globes, like tent spaces where we get to experience these movies, but you felt like you were in space while you're watching. And it was really neat. It gave you a lot of different options and perspectives of like where arts kind of fits in as career paths. Yeah. Because people who did them full time. And I was lucky enough to choose the path of doing band stuff. I got to play saxophone back then, and I did that all the way through high school. I joined a jazz band and kind of just took off from there. Originally, I thought I was going to do like science growing up because academics was a big part of that academy too. But it ended up being more music oriented. I had a passion.
Yeah. Where's the splinter from playing saxophone and jazz band to playing guitar and metalcore?
Dude, it's wild because like I could read some music, but it takes me a minute to like transcribe it. And like I feel like with saxophone, you have to have your whole soul put into it for it to good. So like when I started playing guitar, I was like, oh, I get to be real expressive with this thing. Yeah, we got to do a lot of fun stuff and get a little more creative, especially once I ended up getting my own recording equipment. I was able to like, okay, we're going to add like more of a jazz beat here. We're going to get some different vibes going. We're going to get a little dance beat going on. I put a saxophone solo in one song because I was like, fuck it, I have it here.
Nice. That's right. Yeah. That's right. Well, what got you into heavy music and like that genre?
Oddly enough, it was like Guitar Hero.
Okay.
Yep, Guitar Hero 3 was like huge for me growing up. I didn't have those like play guitars. I had to play on a controller. But like watching all that stuff on the stages, I thought was really dope, and the music choices were really cool. Mm-hmm. And One by Metallica and My Curse by Killswitch Engage. Nice. So once I ended up getting a guitar, I tried like learning every day, like how do I get to the chugging? Because that sounds nuts. And then once I started learning the techniques of how to chug, how to play like more prettier chords, I got exposed to Hey John, What's Your Name Again by Devil Wears Prada. And that was like the staple, because I grew up thinking metal music was the devil's music because I had that household. And when the Devil Wears Prada, I was like, no, see, it's a Christian band. I got to use that as like my argument, and it was heavy as hell too. So I just was game changing from there. Once I grew up, those bands seemed to grow up too and started dropping the Christian metal label and just kept to like a metal label. Yeah. But it was game changing. It was the perfect argument for all my grandparents that went to church every Sunday.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. What was the scene like there in Grand Rapids? I know there are other bands, label mates of yours and Sleepwaker, and like, so what was the scene like for you to dive in there?
Yeah. So oddly enough, it was like, there was a lot of bands growing up with. I was in a different band. It's like a side project of mine called Alamvatal. And it was like a full 5-piece band. But we got to play with Amora. Amora's still around. We got to play with I was in a different band called I'm William Cutting at the time. That band was around too, with the guys from like Drifter. And Drifter was some of those members were in Dead Flower. They're like a pop like alternative kind of band right now in Michigan. And that's where our drummer Cody was into. He was in a band called Anchor's Calling. It was interesting because like you'd see a lot of the same guys at every show, but it was either they were playing it or they were there supporting other friends that were playing. So it was really inclusive. And eventually you'd see like as bands started dissolving, the ones that ended up making it were just mixtures of old bands that were in the area. So it still felt like the same crew. Sleepwaker ended up being like a mixture of like, there was a band called John Killed Courtney and it had in it. And then Jake was in Seraphim. He ended up joining Seraphim first and then ended up joining Sleepwaker after. It was trippy getting to see where some of these people started off with and where they ended up with.
Yeah.
And it really was inspiring too, to know that our little local scene ended up being like a bunch of different people who were successful in what they wanted to be, but in ways that you weren't necessarily anticipating. Because growing up, you're like, yo, bro, your band's going to blow out. This shit's incredible. And we're still running like 15 kids, but still those 15 kids went off. So,
yeah.
But seeing it in real life where you're like, no, these guys actually blew up. Like it's really dope.
How'd you end up in Hollowfront?
That side project, Alan Vital, we ended up playing a set over in Muskegon. And it was our other guitarist's last show. It was his farewell show, and we needed bands to open up for it and play with it, just to keep it like really energetic. And Hollowfront never played a show, and I was like, this would be the perfect opportunity because I just heard a single that just dropped. It was called "Speaking in Tongues" off the record Home Wrecker, and I was like, these guys would be great. So they opened it. They were really crazy. People went hard for them. They had Cody, who was in Anchor's Calling before. No, he wasn't in Anchor's Calling. Yes, he was. My brain's all over the place. But they ended up like staying in touch with us after that. And then when that band ended up like disbanding, I made a parody song to keep myself busy, and I made fun of all the local bands in my area. And Hollowfront was one of them. But the way I did it was I messaged everyone in those bands that I roasted in the song just to make sure that they knew it wasn't personal. It was just me having. And I messaged Tyler, and Tyler said, yeah, if you wanna post that, like, it's totally fine as long as you join the band. And I thought he was joking. And then he was just like, I mean, I am, but I'm not. So I ended up saying I was going to be a fill-in, and I went to learn the songs. And then after I saw them perform with Sleepwaker over at the Pyramid Scheme in Grand Rapids, I saw how, I guess, infectious the crowd energy was, because I feed off the crowd, and watching people reacted to the music Hollowfront had was like insane. Yeah. So instead of failing in, I was just like, how would I just join? Let's go from here. And it kind of just took off from there. That was right around the point where Still Life was coming out. And we just filmed the music video for Still Life before announcing that the album was like really about to drop. And then right when the album dropped, I was on the cusp of whether it was going to be super serious or not, because a few members ended up leaving. But then that was the point where we ended up getting Brandon as our bassist, and then we ended up getting Ryan Kirby as our manager.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So everything kind of like happened within a range of like 6-7 months. It was weird.
That's cool. That's rad. So did you write and record on Still Life?
No, I didn't.
No.
I was there at Lee's house while they were recording it, and I was listening and doing it. And my mind was just like, this is trippy, because I remember their first EP sounding a lot heavier than thing, and I got to hear Still Life, and I was like, this is like a really emotionally invested track. Like, it's very melodic and softer. It still has the heavy tones, but it wasn't, and I loved it.
Yeah.
So when I joined, it felt weird being a part of it, knowing that I didn't have like any touch on the album, but that made us want to record new music that much sooner too.
Yeah.
I start to sense the panic coursing through my veins. They say this, so big attraction. Just like a noose around my neck. You're the thing my whole life, trying to prove to myself that I was good enough. Waiting fate, find us open.
Yeah, you guys put out Loose Threads June of 2020. Was there any point where you were just like, maybe we should wait to get this out here? Or was it just like, well, it's done and nobody else is releasing new music right now, so maybe it's a chance to have our name shine a little more?
Yeah, oddly enough, like we were sitting on the album for I think 2 years at that point.
Oh man.
Yeah, it was horrible because like we recorded it and then we sent it to Ryan, and Ryan was just like, okay, we're gonna sit on this so that way we could see what we could do with it, like whether that be a self-release or whether that be like we release through a label. We're gonna see what we got. So we were out there talking to a few different labels to see if they had any interest, and some people had interest, but like it wasn't like interest. It was kind of, oh yeah, we'll keep you guys in mind. And then COVID happened and kind of sent everything into a flurry. We ended up having to cancel like 3 of the DIY tours that we had. We were on Dynamic Talent at that point too, so they were putting together like a collection of stuff, and of course, right when everything's starting to pop off is when we got to cancel everything.
Yeah, always.
So we messaged Ryan, and we were just like, hey, if we can't do any touring, and that kind of puts like a knife in our side here, what if we just drop the album to compensate for it? And at first he was just like hesitant about it because he wanted to see what the best offer we could get out of it, but then he was just like, no, that's the move, we got to do that.
Yeah.
So we ended up putting together this plan where we dropped like 3 music videos with the album, and it was like a week after each other, so that way it was like constant hype. And once we released the track Loose Threads was when things kind of just really sent into a flurry. Yeah. We ended up getting the most pre-orders we had ever seen ourselves because we did the whole release ourselves. And that's when we started getting like a label offers, and we ended up acquiring a Corey. Corey manages Fit for a King, Silent Planet, Dayseeker, Era. He manages a lot of different bands. Getting someone like him on our team was like really pivotal in what helped progress like the rest of the year for us and the rest of our careers, honestly. Knowing that he was there behind it and he was kind of like pushing it that much harder to the realm of the industry that we hadn't touched yet, it made Loose Threads feel like it was the biggest thing that we'd ever experienced. And I feel like that if a band wasn't taking advantage of the fact that COVID was putting a wrench in people being able to see live music, then a lot of bands were going to dissolve with a lot of the venues that were dissolving too. So the only goal that we had in mind when we had that was just, we gotta stay busy. If people can't see us live, then we need to push content. And that's when we ended up just dropping as many videos, many photos, whatever we could with Loose Threads.
Yeah. Was it difficult to try to, at some point you're like, all right, we put music videos out for every song, we have like remixes. Is it just like, okay, now what? Was there ever that point where you're just like, okay, we're out of things to release or give people like?
Part of me was just like, where's the cap on this? But the other part of me was just like, I took what I didn't like from the last experience and was just like, we should expand on that. Like when we did Loose Threads, we were just like, okay, we played this in a house. It looks really cinematic. And we had like a lot of B-roll shots to fit it, make a storyline. Once we started doing that, I was like, okay, well, let's try to play with some metalcore tropes here just to get people feeling a little more familiar with us, even though our sounds like we have a space within the genre, but we don't have like a familiar aura to us yet.
Yeah.
So that started doing like the Infinity Room where we did Wearing Thin. We started doing those abandoned warehouses when we did Serendipity. We were just trying to make it as like as metalcore as possible while also having like some sort of authenticity to it. Wanted to be more creative with the fact that you were in some place that people had seen before. Afflicted, we ended up doing in a garage. It didn't look like it was a garage though, because we had our buddy Ned filming it properly. And then it just made us more excited to create, because we were just like, these are easy places to find. And if you can make those easy places look like huge and impactful, and like you could basically do like a whole onslaught of like DIY videos with just a small group of people, go somewhere, and you could reuse the same areas if you know how to make the angles and the lighting look different. Like, so it made getting photos really fun. It made coming up with videos a lot more fun. And then that's when we got to start experimenting with like, it's COVID. What do people want? If they can't see you live, let's do a live stream. If people can't see you perform or get tabs or something, let's do some playthrough videos. Let's change the atmosphere about it. And whatever we could do to get people excited about the music again and make it feel like it's fresh when you hear it, we tried. We even did Reimagined. We started that with Still Life, but like doing it with Loose Threads added like some I like symphonic feels, like orchestra, wavy. And I feel like the more you play with the music, the more you allow yourself to feel less restrictive, the more, I guess, immersive you're going to feel when something gets dropped.
Yeah. Speaking of symphonic, have you listened to the Architects live at Abbey Road with the symphony?
Oh my God.
It fucking goes so hard.
Oh, Abbey Road is just like, I love playing with those plugins just because they're so rich, but like hearing them play with like the whole symphony, it made those drops and those really like soft melodic parts just like, you could close your eyes and get a whole vision of a story. Yeah.
It's an incredible record. That's I'm gonna say it here.
Metallica's S&M.
Yeah. That was great too. Yeah, I love more of that in metal.
Like the guitars and bass and drums all the time. Add some sauce.
Yeah. You said this was around the time label started picking up interest in you guys. What led you choosing to go with Unified?
They felt the most like I guess personable and like earnest to our goals. Obviously it's about the business and what people can do for each other at the end of the day, but UNFD ended up just making it very, I guess, personalized to us. They made sure what we were getting out of it was going to be tailored to the style of marketing and tailored to the drive that we're trying to put towards it. They know that we want to be creative with our videos. They know that we want to be a little more creative about how we market ourselves too. We've always had this little thing about us where each album that we do, we want to make it easy for people to get art from, because art inspires different forms of art, not just music. So people can get tattoos, they could do drawings, they could get different types of art. We could get some crazy shirts out of it. So they were on board with practicing a lot of different marketing techniques. With this next album, we ended up getting like a lot of color coordinating, a lot of play off of the Medusa design, and integrating that into like the music videos, or like just like the streaming videos themselves. It just feels cohesive with it, and they were really on board with it. They feel like they're part of the family.
Yeah, that's awesome. Did you guys talk to like the Sleepwaker guys to like get their vibe about the label, or?
We ended up getting onto UNFD before Sleepwaker ended up getting on there.
Oh, wow.
And then Frankie was working close with Francesca, which is our label manager over at UNFD, because he did all of our designs, and he also helped with a lot of our personal marketing. So he was already in close talks with Francesca, and ended up working out best for them too. It felt kind of funny because like now that once we found out that they got signed to UNFD too, I was like, we really putting Grand Rapids on the map.
Yeah.
Like, I already had bands like Still Remains and like Icy Stars, who came as Romans, come out of Michigan, but like to see two bands like on a rising modern day label, like independent label, and crush it, like coming in right out the gate is dope. Because one, like we talked about earlier, it's nice seeing local homies blow up, but two, it's nice to see Grand Rapids, Michigan blow up. Yeah,
for sure. That's awesome. How soon did you guys get into writing after you signed? You guys did the re-release of Loose Threads with UNFD, but like, how soon was it like, okay, now it's time for new music, especially since you sat on that record for so long?
Yeah. So the signing point was like we agreed on it and decided on it back, I think like July or August of the same year that we dropped Loose Threads. So it was only a couple months before we ended up sitting on that. And then the announcement was made in November of that year. And they wanted a new song. They wanted a new song to release with it. And it worked out because the second we signed, we're just like, let's start working on some demos and stuff just to like have a rough idea for what we want the next record to sound like. And one of the songs that was completely finished already was Wearing Thin. And we sent that to them and they're like, dude, this is awesome. Ended up using that as our signing announcement song. And from there, they were just like, okay, how soon would you guys want to record? We can get you in like this spring. And we're like, let's go this spring. Who are we going to? And we had a few options and we ended up going with Atrium. They did Era, like Moss to Flames, August Burns Red. Like they felt like they were going to make our music feel huge. So we were back in the studio after we were announced in November. We went in February. And we were there from like middle of February until like the end of March, closer to April. Whole month sleeping over in the middle of a studio that looked like the 80s studios with all the weird colors on the wall. We had air mattresses in the middle of the drum room. It was a pigsty, honestly, because you have 5 guys sleeping together in one little room and we don't have anywhere else to go.
Yeah.
But it made the songwriting really interesting too, because we were always near each other. We all had our space if we needed it, but like all the ideas and stuff that we were coming up with from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. was work time. That's when we'd be working on the album itself. But every other time was kind of like we would set up our computers in our own microphones and we would track ideas that we all had. So instead of it being like Tate and I writing lyrics on our own times all the time, it'd be like we'd write lyrics, come together, and then we'd run our ideas by each other. Mm-hmm. Make sure everyone thought it was like the catchiest or the most hookiest or it felt right for the part. And it felt nice to get other people's perspective when you're in that, because when you get in your own head and you get stuck on a part, sometimes something you think sounds real shitty is something simplistic enough to hook. Yeah. So it was nice to have like 5 other people be in the room and like adding to those ideas. And then in the morning, we don't have to worry about them because we already made it last night.
The record is called The Price of Dreaming. Outside of being a song title, does that encompass a theme that runs through this record? Or
yes, so that theme is more so like I wanted to write music about stuff that we were feeling personally at the time. I wanted to make it very raw. And one thing that all of us were kind of feeling, because we had just signed with UNFD and it was during the pandemic, we're like, there's going to be a lot of shit that you got to give up in order to live this lifestyle at this point. So there's no reliability in it as much as there was pre-COVID, where touring was happening all the time. There was a sure way of streaming and stuff to like keep you afloat. Now it's like venues are dissolving. People aren't as able to go out to shows because you require vaccinations, this and that. There's a lot of politics behind it. So I wanted to encompass like, what is it like to live your dream during a time where your dream seems like the most like pipe dream that it could be. Mm-hmm. And the thing that came up out of it was we got this song that we were doing in the morning. Tate said, I don't know what to write about. Can you write a chorus for it? And then I'll write around it. So I was sitting in my my air mattress, just listening to the song back and forth, and I was just thinking about like how much I miss my family back at home, how much I'm gonna miss them if like all the touring stuff comes back, and like if I really want it bad enough, I'm gonna have to come to terms that if I get the opportunity to go, then I'm just gonna go. And it was I'd have to sacrifice that. I'd have to be willing to let that go and come back home to it eventually. And I wrote, the only thing I'm allowed to keep is the hope that they'll forgive me for leaving. And then I was like, what can wrap this up? What feels natural? And I was like, the lonely life's the price of dreaming, honestly. Because you are alone. You're by yourself. You have to deal with that on your own. Nobody can feel that out for you. And I felt like it was kind of beautiful at the same time, while it was also kind of painful. And that kind of like embodied what a lot of the songs were about. They're about like loss, sacrifice, love, pain, like a lot of stuff that just coincided with things people normally take for granted, but we can't take for granted anymore because you might quickly lose it. The pandemic wasn't planned, and neither was any of this. So each of the songs, from like treading water, just keeping your head above water, working as hard as you can, trying to get through it, to The Price of Dreaming, to Heritage, because we were dealing with a lot of like the George Floyd, Georgia thing, like the runner in Georgia. It was a lot of stuff going on, and it was a lot of stuff that we had personal feelings for at the time.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. Besides, because you've been out on the road, outside like the crazy first week in the accident, like how have the shows been, and like the response, and like
it's been nuts. Like I've always wanted to like share my experience from on stage with everyone else, just because like when I watch bands, it's always like glowing, it's insane, it's huge, the sound fills the room, you're in your own headspace. But like from the stage and you see all the faces, I feel like if you take a second back to just enjoy it and think about what it really is, like these are a bunch of people that like worked hard for their money, and they go day in and day out trying to make their life like just work and be sustainable. And they still took the time out and the money out to spend this moment with you. And you're their moment, you're their day, you're the moment in the month that they were looking forward to. And watching them just bounce and go hard the entirety of the time, it made every night worth it. Even the ones that were like 300 kids, 200 kids, like just seeing them come out and still have the time of their life made me like ecstatic. You always get those shows where some people will be a little harder to move, but once they get going, it's just like it's a snowball effect. They're gonna have fun for the whole night. The show that we did in Worcester with the like Moss Polaris tour, when we crossed over for that, was like prime example for kids that hadn't seen shows in God knows how long. And we had a security guard that day tell us, he was like, that show you guys put on with We Came as Romans when you came through here was my first show back in like 2.5 years. He's like, and I cried that night because it felt so good to see all these people. And then when they saw all those people there that night with like Moss and Polaris, when they mixed with us, seeing all of them stay there for 8 bands was insane. And from the very first one too, they were moving. It was just like a slow growth. It was everyone was moving, wearing out all their energy for like 8-9 hours straight.
That's awesome. Well, this record comes out May 27th. What's the rest of 2022 look like for you guys?
We got that record dropping. We got a tour with August Burns Red, We Came as Romans, and Void of Vision here in July. We're playing Blue Ridge Fest in September. We're getting another show set up sometime during the summertime to play with some buddies here in the Midwest. And from there, we're kind of just playing it by ear. We might have a European tour here that we're looking for within the next like 12 months. Otherwise, see us around playing those videos online, putting out more content. And then if you can catch us on tour, that's the time to do it.
That's awesome. That lineup for Blue Ridge Fest is ridiculous.
Yo, I saw Saliva and Three Doors Down on it, and I was like, is this going to happen? Hail and Kill Switch Engage, and I was like, I'm about to live my childhood.
It's wild. It's like like Demon Hunter, like
yeah, they got red on
POD. Yeah, like Gojira. Like
Jesus.
what is happening? Like
Guar.
yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
My best friend is like, we gotta go, and I'm like, yeah, we gotta go.
I told my girlfriend and my family, I was just like, yo, we plan on going there like a day early just to watch. And they're like, oh, we're coming with.
I'm feeling tired. Waves are playing on this world. Everywhere I turn, I want to all they burn.
This record for us is very intimate, very raw, and very personal. Every song, if you get the opportunity to check out the lyrics and try to like open your mind as to where we were coming from while we were writing this, it means the world to us, and I feel like could also help us all connect through music. Each song, despite it being heavy in nature, is also like very, very emotionally driven, and I feel like that will translate live too if anyone ever gets the opportunity to see these songs performed here in the future. And mad love to everybody who's been able to support us all the way up to this point and beyond, and can't wait to share this with everyone.
Thanks for listening to As the Story Grows. Our intro music was written and composed by Jeremy Hunt. The As the Story Grows theme is by Bob Nana. If you like what you hear, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and give us a rating and review. If you'd like to support the show financially, you can join us at patreon.com/asthestorygrows. Be a part of our community and join the ongoing conversation over on Discord. If you enjoy this episode, share it on social media with your friends. Much appreciated, and thanks for listening.
I'll never